Hi guys, can you hear me? Morning Ken, Katara, and Fivus. Do I pronounce that properly? Or is that just a nickname you're using for this occasion? I cannot hear myself. Maybe that's normal. So there is a 30-second delay between what I say and what you hear. The chat is live. The chat is immediate, rather. So whatever you type, I will see immediately. Oh, good. Thanks, Ken. Good. So we only have a few people. It's going to be a cozy affair. We have a very small class this time around, which is excellent. It means that we can give you all the attention you deserve. But at the same time, I'll be recording this so future students can refer back to this, because I'm planning on answering a whole lot of questions. Katara, good. So we're on YouTube now as well. I hope it's a private session. It's okay if it's public. Anyway, the intention was that this was just for students. Good. Just maybe quickly, let's introduce ourselves to everyone. I'm Karel Seegers. I designed this course in July of last year. We ran it for 200 people as a mass trial. And if really only last weekend, I managed to see the results for myself, thanks to Katara. Katara did the course as her first introduction to screenwriting, and I was privileged to read some of her screenplay that came out of the course, and that's given me a tremendous amount of confidence that it is indeed working. Because a lot of people who have attended the course have done stuff before, took other courses, studied with me, had written other screenplays. So it's very hard to judge what the impact of this particular course is. But thanks to Katara joining the cave, we did the private or exclusive story workshop up in the Blue Mountains here in Australia. Katara showed me her work, and that was absolutely revelating. It was great. So that's me. Ken, would you mind introducing yourself maybe via chat in a few words? Now, I can bring you guys into the webinar. So if you're brave, I could give you access if you have a microphone and a camera attached. That could be exciting. Why not? What can go wrong? So if you would like to introduce yourselves live with sound and vision to the small group we have today, then just click on the hand. That's a speak request. So on your right-hand side in the sidebar, there's a hand. If you click on that, I should be able to give you access to the feed, and then you can introduce yourself directly. Otherwise, you can just type it into the chat. So, Anne, would you like to briefly introduce yourself? Just where you are from, and what background in writing you have. I asked, yeah, Ken. Yeah. In fact, why don't you? We don't need to do this sequentially because it's chat. Why don't you all introduce yourselves? Just write in the text chat who you are, where you're from, what your background is in a few words. One of the key skills when you're writing is concision. So the skill to condense a large amount of information in a few words. Good. So thank you, Ken. Works full-time in the mental health sector. I've always loved writing, although I've never had anything published. I'm looking at writing a sci-fi piece located in Melbourne. Great. Now, this is really interesting. You work in the mental health sector, and you'll see that may help you, depending on what department or what area you're working in. Only yesterday, I did a full day of consults on screenplays, and out of about 8 screenplays, 2 were linked or had some sort of association with mental health. And I think it's increasingly an important topic that screenwriters should be aware of. And when you tackle that in your scripts, I think that there are fair fair amount of issues that you need to be aware of. So Ken, I think you're probably well positioned with that background. It's increasingly important, and to a degree, I really believe that every great story has some sort of link to mental health, because characters have flaws. Great characters have flaws. They need to overcome those flaws. Depending on how extreme those flaws are, you can talk about, mental health issues. That's what they are like. I mean, you can argue Scarface was not really healthy in the mind, or more obvious, John Nash in A Beautiful Mind. Katara lives in Tasmania. Before Immersion, I had no screenwriting experience, but a couple of script stories playing through my head. I've now written 2 full-length feature scripts, first drafts. How amazing is that? I'm so proud of you, Katara. That's just fantastic. And I mean, there is those who are not yet fully introduced to screenwriting. So Ken, I don't know what your background is in. You've never had anything published. You love writing, but I'm interested to know whether you've ever completed a script, because many people start writing screenplays, but only very few ever finish it. So Katara finished 2 scripts, and the second part of my satisfaction comes from that they were well written. They were very well written, and they looked like you master the core crafts. Rob says he's from Sydney, perpetually aspirant. Do I pronounce it properly? Aspirant? I think so. I've done 1 course with Carell. Rob did the story series. Rob's also a member of the Sydney Screenwriters Meetup group. So that's great. We've got Ken in Melbourne, Katara in Tasmania, Rob in Sydney. I think we do have 2 more people currently logged in, so I'd be keen to see who those other people are. See if I can see that here behind the scenes. I used to be able to see who was present, but I don't think I can now. No, I don't think I can. I don't see the names of the people who have logged in. So we have 3 successful lurkers. Okay, so let's go through what we are planning for this brief webinar. I'm not going to have it run for too long. I'd say maybe another half hour or so. First of all, I'd like to introduce you to the essence of immersion. What is my hope for you when you finish it? So what are the objectives? I'd also like to talk, actually I did a short, let's see, yeah. The principle, what's the spirit of immersion? And also, why now? Why should you do that course now? At the end, I'm going to give you a resource for testing and sharpening your ideas. Some of you already know, logline it. But that's ultimately what will get you into the industry. First, you need to learn the skill, and then at some point when you have a strong concept, you may develop that into something that you can sell. Fivas, do I pronounce that properly? Is that your name? Is it Fivas or Fivas? You're in the automotive electronics industry, but a hobby filmmaker. Wrote 2 short films and produced both of them. Good. Moved to Canberra from Germany recently. Would love to write more. Great. So Canberra, that's another state. So we have 4 states today. Fantastic. 4 out of 4. 5, are you aware that there's a program running in Canberra called the Accelerator? I can talk about that more outside this webinar, but that may be something for you once you've done the course to consider attending. Maybe not this year because we've just started. There'll be another one next year starting in September, so you do have time enough to work on this course and then maybe develop a script. Now, I know that Rob has registered for the course. Maybe the other guys have as well, but maybe under a different name. So Ken and Fivers, if you have already registered for the course, just let me know. Otherwise, you'll have an opportunity during this webinar. I'll post the links. Good. So why do I believe that this is an effective course for you to be introduced into screenwriting? Well, I've been teaching for 10 years. I have my own private courses, or I used to run what's called the Story Series. That's the course that Rob did. And in that series, I took a fairly academic approach. I looked at what are the core principles of successful screenwriting. And I tried not to rehash what you read in the book. So I added what I believe are critical aspects of writing that had not been covered properly. One of them is midpoint. Another one is point of view. Yet another one is a distinction between events and actions. And that stuff you will learn through, talking with other immersion writers, and there'll be other opportunities. I'm planning on doing a lot more of these webinars where I go a little bit deeper, where rather than you guys finding it out for yourself, I will help you and guide you in the way that I did with these courses. But the thing with these courses, although they were fun, they were insightful, I think students have always enjoyed them, came back, some people for 3 times in total, and Phil Barker is a good example. Then went on to have his screenplay option to a BAFTA-nominated producer, and he just got the news that the option was renewed because the producer had been making progress towards production. The one thing I noticed in those courses, and equally in the schools where I teach, because I teach in schools in Sydney and overseas as well, students may well grasp the theory, know the principles, but until you actually do the work, you will not become a successful writer. It is that simple. And although last year I finished the final story series and I was elated to have 30 amazing students in this class, I am ultimately disappointed that I don't see more results from these students. I don't see finished screenplays that go on and are noticed, win prizes and get sold, because ultimately that's what I would like to see. Now, not everybody has that hardcore commercial objective, and that's fine. You don't have to, sell your script 5 months after you complete it or 2 weeks after you complete it. That's not realistic. But some people would like that. Some people have that dream, and I find it disheartening when you see that people go in with that expectation and then don't get there even years later. So this is where immersion is different. I coach you through this course. You will develop a routine. And if you want to be a successful writer, you need to write regularly. Now, that may be a huge burden, a huge task, if you're not used to that. Most people say, I don't have time. We lack time to write. Immersion helps you to carve out that time and build a routine, a practice of continuous writing. So over the course of 6 months, you will have to do some work. And the way it's set up, it coaxes you, it nudges you to do very specific tasks. So you don't have to go and immediately write 110 pages. That is not realistic. You're gradually brought to that point where you're ready, you're excited, you're inspired, you see the story, and then in 30 days, you will punch it out. That's the spirit of it. So the first 100 days, you're going to read scripts. Reading is fun. The scripts are good scripts. I've chosen them both on their merits in terms of commercial success and the craft of writing, because there are tons of screenplays out there that are really well written, but that never did anything at the box office, and vice versa. Best example I keep giving, Quentin Tarantino's Django Unchained. Very successful film. It is barely unreadable screenplay. It's very long, and it's not written in accordance to what is considered the principles of screenwriting. If you were to write in the style of Tarantino, you would not get anywhere. People would just look at the first page and not even start reading. You'll understand by taking this course why this is. But reading is just fun. So you start with 100 days of being introduced to this craft by just taking in the stories. You're not actively studying rules or principles. So you're learning to enter the story, some of which you know because you've seen the films, from the back doors. You'll read the stories, you re-experience them, and you find out how this stuff is put on the page. So you'll read regularly. one script every 5 days. At the same time, you'll work in what I call the Scriptorium. You're going to hand copy one script, 1 page a day, which is absolutely manageable, and it's probably the most enjoyable experience. I mean, I have done it myself because I had to try it, and that's what I enjoyed more than anything else. You hand copy a script. You can choose from a whole list. Again, there you go through the motions. You actually, by writing the text in the format that you're supposed to do, you create a habit. You do it every day, 1 page per day, and that's a task that sometimes takes only 3 minutes, 5 minutes, or 10 minutes, but gradually you'll get acquainted with what it looks like and what it feels like writing it. That's the first 100 days. You'll also write reports. Now, this is important. So you're going to summarize these scripts. You're going to summarize these stories. It's probably the hardest task. Some people come in with a left-brained mentality and are immediately anxious. But my synopsis is what we call that, one-page summary, is not good enough. How should I write it? And here's my take on that is you write it the way you write it the fastest. The most important thing is that you do that work. Every 5 days, you punch out 1 page. If it only, roughly covers the story you've read, then that's fine. Doesn't have to be perfect. I'm not reading it. You submit it. You do it for yourself. You have to submit the document. That's the most important thing. You'll submit another one in 5 days and in 5 days. And that way, you'll get used to seeing that story. I think that the magic behind summarizing in a synopsis is you hold the whole story in your mind. I find this the hardest thing. I work with screenwriters and producers. I read their scripts. The hardest thing is to hold the whole story in your mind in order to be able to talk about it. There's a lot of detail. And when every 5 days you're prompted to summarize the story in 1 page, you actually learn that. You learn to see the big picture and to hold that whole story in your mind at the same time. So here's my word of warning. That may be the task that's going to put you off more than anything else. The reading is fine. The writing is fine, but the writing the synopsis every 5 days, and Katara may be able to confirm. I don't know what your experience was with that, but I have a feeling that may be the most daunting task. So don't beat yourself up over it. Don't set yourself too high standards initially. Just write it as quickly as you can, and over time, you will get better and better and better. And if you've done about 10 synopses, I will give you a guide. I create a booklet, an ebook, and a whole mini webinar about writing synopses. And that's where I'll help you perfect your synopsis to industry standard. By then, you'll be able to write them quickly, and you'll be challenged to do it better. And that's when these new rules come in. And then the final thing you're going to do after reading a screenplay is just in a few words, write down what you learned from that particular script. If you're entirely new to screenwriting, it may be the format. Maybe you'd never seen the format, or you didn't know that people never write thoughts in description. They just write action. Or you didn't know that some people capitalize certain words in the description, such as sounds or props. That's something you learn. And that's one of the aspects of immersion. You will learn more from reading by yourself than anyone can ever teach you. And this exercise of writing this short report, 100 words, 200 words, no more than that, is to effectively write that down. And so you never forget. You kind of materialize your learning. Katara just posted how she writes synopsis. She just writes bullet points for the report, follow the format for the logline and synopsis, move on, read. That's it. Very simple. And it's supposed to be fun. All right, this is a fun course. It's about stories. It's about getting you into the habit of telling stories effortlessly without having to learn principles, but without feeling that you're making mistakes, because it's impossible to make mistakes. You cannot fail in those first 100 days. It is very simple. And at the same time, after that 100 days, it will literally blow your mind how much you have learned. And I've seen it over and over again in those 200 people who took the trial, and all the students that have done the course as you will be doing it now. It's quite remarkable how much you learn without even being aware of it. Katara said, I find keeping up difficult, but I hadn't seen most of the films. It's easier when you're in some way familiar with them. I totally agree with that. First module is really about keeping up with the pace. That's right. This interesting point. Katara says she'd never seen the films. I really believe that you will learn more about a film if you watch it a second time, or if you've seen it before and then read the script, or read the script twice. That's for later. Now just get through the script. So that's the first stage: 100 days, 20 screenplays, 20 reports, 20 synopses, and 1 page a day. That's the phase I call osmosis. Second stage is reverse screenwriting. You pick a film that you like from a list of 20, you watch it and you transcribe it. You go through it scene by scene and you transcribe what you see in script format. By then you know what the format looks like and you just do it. And the final stage, by that time you will have developed muscle memory. You know how to write a script because you've done it. You've done it twice. You've copied a screenplay and then you've transcribed one. So if you have written two scripts. You've done the mechanical action of writing a screenplay twice before you write your own. In the final stage, which is creative screenwriting, in the final 30 days, we're not going to restrict you very much, and we're going to go against industry practice and sometimes against intuition, because most professionals will first want to outline a script before they write the script. Here, we don't want you to work too long on the development. We need you to get out that first draft as quickly as possible, so in 30 days. But you'll do some thinking. I'll prompt you. I'll trigger you with 10 questions to think about, and then you answer those questions. That will give you an easy roadmap for that final 30 days. So that's what the course looks like in broad strokes. You may say that you don't have an idea right now. You don't have a great idea to develop for your script for the final stage, and that is fine. In fact, nobody does. That's the rarest thing to find, is a fantastic sellable idea. That should not hold you back. The idea is to acquire a process, to become ready to do this work and to know how to do it the day you wake up with a great concept, because then it'll be too late to learn. You need to act quickly. That's how this industry works. All right, guys, I've been ranting a bit, so if you have questions, just put them in the chat. That's what this webinar is for. Just ask me via the chat, and I'll answer what I can. Good. So at the end, you will have a script that you have written. That's not perfect. That's rough. What are you going to do then? That's where you're going to take that left-brain approach. You're going to look at the script and find where are the strengths and the weaknesses, and you're going to do the second draft. But that's in your own time. I really recommend people to let a script rest for a while. The effect will be you go back and you'll be amazed about the stuff that you have written. It'll make you proud because you forgot about the gems, but you'll also see the weaknesses. It'll be easier to go back and improve it. At that time, I'll also give you a whole range of tools so you know how to approach a rewrite. So you know what to do in order to improve that script. So that's the objective. Now, to help you, so you're not starting that creative screenwriting phase with an absolutely useless idea, although no ideas are useless. I have a resource that's called the logline.it, and I'm going to show you by screen share website where you can post your ideas, and they're reviewed by the community. And these are writers like you and me, who have more experience. And they'll give you instant feedback based on the idea itself, what they believe is the commercial viability, but at the same time also the way you communicate it, because that's another thing. I think there's two key aspects about writing. And on the one hand, there's the idea, there's the story itself. On the other hand, it's how you write it, the style of it. Logline.it. And I'm going to, as I said, I'm going to share the screen. Okay, so I go back to screen sharing, and there it is. This is it. So as you can see, loglines are listed. Click on them, and then you see the reviews. So there's a review right there. That's written by Richie. Richie, who has been one of our legends in terms of reviewing log lines. Is absolutely magnificent. We've got 4,745 posted on the site, so we've got a whole range to pick from, and some of them have multiple reviews, so you can see different views on that idea. So Ken has a question. There are many screenwriting software applications around. Which do you recommend and why? We touch on that in the course. There's a page dedicated to that. I am a reseller of Final Draft, but for the purpose of this course, I don't recommend using it because it's expensive. It's $250 US. That's a whole lot of money if you're not earning money with the software. So I give you a free copy of Caltex, and I also teach you, or at least I give you the code to write in script format using any naked script software, processor, word processor, such as Notepad for PC or TextEdit for the Mac. Not a lot of people know this, but by just using a particular simple formatting, by having, for instance, name in caps and then the dialogue right underneath and you start a new paragraph, by doing that, when you import a simple text file into a professional screenwriting software package, you get a perfectly formatted script. It doesn't cost you a thing. So that's part of the course. You get that code. It's Fountain. Yeah, that's the name of the code. It's called Fountain. And screenwriter John August has developed an app. It's called Highland, where you can make that conversion. The app is cheap. It's only $30. So you can convert from Fountain to Final Draft or to PDF and backwards. So that's what I love the app for. You can go from PDF to Final Draft or text and then edit. So you'll get a lot of stuff. You'll learn a lot about screenwriting in the margin of this course. There's a lot of wisdom, not necessarily from me. There's a whole range of people who are on the boards, on the forums, or on the Facebook page. So I think that is about the crux. This is what you need to know to make your decision. I don't think there are any other hidden secrets that could get you across the line. This is it. So on the one hand, there's the power of the course in terms of the effortless nature. You just do the work day to day, and that's how you learn. On the other hand, there's a few tools that we give you in order to get to that third stage where you write your own screenplay in the best possible way. Good. So before we wrap up, I posted somewhere on the social media that I was going to say something about the Big Bang, how the Big Bang relates to your stories. And here's one of the areas that I cover more than anyone else, any other screenwriting teacher. I do believe that every story has a very strong element of causation. Causation is a legal term. Causality is more the physics term, so cause and effect. Causation means there's intent. There are people who make decisions and that lead to situations or things to happen. So in the way I focus on stories, I look at what happens and what do people do as a result of that. This is a very simple way of breaking down stories, and people may often make it really, really complex, and I don't think it's necessary. You just go look at an action, you ask, why does that person do that? And you trace that back to something that happened to them. And then that thing that happened to them in a good story, that's often done by another character. So an event is often an action by another character. And then we go and look at, why did that character do that? Conversely, if you see a character do something on the screen and you don't have the idea that that comes from somewhere outside that character, it feels unmotivated. It's confusing. So this is something I learned from reading screenplays. When a character does something out of their own initiative, it doesn't feel real. This has a really interesting philosophical side effect. That's just my thinking. Because to me, it puts into question the notion of free will. It is almost as if in screenplays, we do not accept the notion of free will. If an action comes from the character itself, we don't accept it. we want to see something that happened to that character that led them to making that choice or that decision. And so you need to be able to always trace back to the origin. Now, obviously, the story needs to start somewhere. And whatever precedes the story, whatever is not on the screen, we call backstory. And often that then becomes a prequel. And you can keep doing prequels and go back. That's where I think about the Big Bang. If you keep going back, you should be able to trace everything back to what happened before. And ultimately, you'll end up at the Big Bang. So that's obviously not feasible. So you need to start, you choose your starting point of the story. And that's what the audience need to accept. So there's an element of backstory they need to accept. So you don't need to explain everything away. You don't need to explain every action of your character at the beginning of the story. The audience needs to accept that. But once you're in the story, I like to see the motivation for everything that happens. So that's what I wanted to say about the link between your stories and the Big Bang. So it's the causation or the causality, links between actions and events. So I hope, Ken, I've answered your question. 5S, let me know if you've got any questions left. Rob, I think you, I haven't done that. Actually, I haven't shown the site itself. And that may be interesting. Just before we wrap up, let's go to the course site itself. I've made all possible efforts to make sure that it is as user-friendly as possible, but sometimes it turns out not to be. Some people still struggle. Sorry about that, Rob. But let's have a quick look, and there it is. I know you can see it as well. Okay, cool. It says what it looks like once you've logged in. Actually, the problem. I now see that it's hard to prove Rob wrong because my screen goes to the mobile version of the course. That's not what I wanted to show you. I mean, maybe it's a Safari thing. And you know what? It is a Safari thing. I'm opening it now in Chrome and doesn't have that issue. All right. But let me see. Is there anyone here who has gone to the site and struggled to access the page where you can sign up? Please let me know. In the meantime, I'm going to see if I can do to the Chrome version. I don't think it's doing it. Oh dear. Rob's conspiring against me, I think. All right, one more try. And there it is. No, is that Chrome? I'm actually not sure. I think that's a Safari one again. So it should be easier. And I think the moment Rob had signed up, it got him to the page where you start the course, and then it really goes step by step. Maybe I should just log in and there we go. Okay, that's easy. So yeah, okay. So here's the three parts, and this is where you sign up. So Immersion Screenwriting, you go to all courses, you pick Immersion Screenwriting, and here's where you purchase it. And once you've made that purchase, you get to see every step of the way, the 3 parts, and for each part you have lessons and quizzes. There are 4 quizzes about the scripts that you've read. I can give away the first script is the shortest to get you in easily. That's the pilot screenplay for Breaking Bad, which is a brilliantly written script. It's not just a great show, but it's also very well written. It's fun reading, and I think it's a very good way in. It also shows the acts. In television scripts, often you have the acts printed. You don't have that in feature scripts. It's about, 50 pages or something? So you can read that fairly quickly, fairly easily, faster than the other. All right, guys, we're going to wrap up. Unless you've got questions, now is the time. I'll put the link to the sign up page here in the chat so you can access that if you want to sign up. So I'm aware that today is the 4th of November. Officially, we start on the 1st, but we want to keep it open a few more days, particularly because we can manage a few more people. I haven't really marketed this very much. We've been focusing on other things, other workshops with former immersion students, such as Jane and Joe and Katara and Octavia. The link, there we go. Put it in a sticky message. Can I do that? There we go. That is the link to the sign up. Oh yeah, I can make it sticky by doing this. There it stays at the top. No questions from Qatar. In that case, thanks for joining, guys. If you have any further questions, just email me or go to the Facebook group. I assume that you know where that is, because I think that's where most of you come from. The Immersion Screenwriting Facebook group. I'll just put the link here to be sure. Some of you, no, actually only Rob, I may see this afternoon here in Sydney for the working your scripts. The others, I do travel to Tasmania occasionally, as you know, Qatar. Melbourne is still on my list. Yeah, Fivers, it'd be great to have you on board, man. Or woman, I don't know. Sorry, it's the first time I hear this or see this name. So let's leave that a mystery. You don't need to reveal yourself here and now. There's the link to the Facebook group. I think that's all you need. So guys, I hope to see you in the fishbowl of the immersion course. It'd be great to have you on board. Again, any questions, email me or post them here. I will keep an eye on the messages even after we close this down. And let's hope within now and 6 months, you will have your first completed feature-length screenplay. Wouldn't that be great? All right, thanks for joining, and I will see you later.